Hi, folks. Damon here. So today is actually my last day at AWS. I just wanted to send a quick note and say thank you to everybody that has watched these videos and subscribed over the past few years. It's been awesome to build these things for you. I've loved the engagement. I've loved the comments from folks, and I love hearing that some of this is actually useful to you. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I've definitely appreciated it. Stick around. I will probably continue to make fun videos about data engineering work that I'm doing. I'm actually going back into software engineering and platform engineering. So I'll keep building some fun stuff. I'll keep publishing here from time to time. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, but I just wanted to send a quick thank you. And before I go, I wanted to do one last demo. This one is personal to me. So as a developer advocate, one of the things I've had to do is keep track of some of my statistics over the past few years. You know, how many views I'm getting, how many views I'm getting on GitHub and on YouTube and things like that. And of course, one of the ways that I did that was I built my own little ETL framework and data lake. So I'm just going to go over that for fun on my last day here. So let's get started. One of the things that I did kind of right before I joined AWS was I was getting really interested in containers. And one of the challenges I had is whenever I would, build a little tool to go play with an API, if I ever came back to that tool, a few months later, a year later, I'd have to figure out, what version of Ruby I had installed or Python and what libraries I had installed and get everything cloned and back in order and whatnot. And so I wanted to experiment with using containers as a way to build a framework to access APIs that I could, use pretty easily on an ongoing basis. So I built this thing called cargo crates. And it's pretty straightforward. It's just a bunch. It's a framework for packaging a bunch of these Docker containers. So in my crates here, what I've got is I've got different services that I have support for. So I've got a dad joke API, I've got my GitHub APIs, YouTube, and a few other things in there as well. And what I wanted to do is just make it really easy to get access to the data that these APIs provide without having to have all the different tooling installed on my own system. So if we look at the README really quickly, it's pretty easy to run these as long as you've got your API tokens. You can just do a Docker run with the crate and provide some parameters to it. So GitHub, for example, supports traffic and releases, and you just specify the repo that you want to do that for. So if I copy that, go over to my terminal real quick, and do that Docker run. What that does, if the image isn't pulled already, it pulls it and then hits the GitHub API and spits out the data in standard out. So that's kind of cool because then I can take that data and I can do a quick, JQ and format the data and look at it nice and pretty so you can see what that different data is looking like. And then I can also just do this with other APIs as well. So as another example, I pull data for my YouTube channel. I can do a Docker run with my YouTube API key as an environment variable and specify my channel that you all are watching. So I can do that, pipe that out to standard out, and you can see when that comes back. I just published this video yesterday, remote debugging with PyCharm and EMR, and I can look at that, see the tags that are on it, see how many views it's gotten so far, and I can dump all this into my data lake where I can keep tabs on what things are performing well and what things aren't. That said, I wanted to automate this, of course. So I built another little utility called Forklift. And Forklift, I was kind of going a little crazy with the names here, but you can forklift your cargo into different places. So what Forklift does is it allows you to take standard out and pass it to a location in S3. You can also extract different pieces of information from the data. It supports JSON, so if there is a field that you want to pull out and have that as part of your path in S3, you can do that. And it's got some template fields too, so if you wanted to spit it out to today's date, you could do that as well. So let's take a quick look at what that looks like. So if I do a forklift help, pretty straightforward. You just provide this like URI template where you want to write out data. Let me do a quick remove of the data that I just wrote out. I'll do an rm recursive. Awesome. So now if I do an S3ls of that location, you can see I've got nothing in there. So what I want to do is let's look at that GitHub data again. And we can see there's a few fields that might be interesting for this GitHub data. So I want to write this out to S3. and I want to take the repository, write that out to the path in S3, and maybe I want to take the path as well because I've got some different paths there. But let's take a look at what this looks like really quickly. So I'm going to do that same Docker run, pass that to Forklift. I'll pipe it to standard out, and then Forklift picks that up from standard in, and I'm going to write out to my repo and today's date. So you can see here is Forklift telling me it's connecting to S3 with a template, then opening this file and writing out to that file. So like I said, if I wanted to, I could also add different JSON fields in there. So instead of just repo, I can also say JSON path, and I can add a new path to there. And you can see based on the incoming data, it's going to create different files based on that. So pretty nice to be able to take a whole bunch of different data streams, fork them into S3, and write them out to partitioned paths, essentially. So now I've got a bunch of data in S3. Now what do I do with it? So what I also have is my data lake here. And this is a CDK stack, and all this does, it deploys a glue crawler for that JSON data, and it also deploys a set of ECS containers that these data containers on a daily basis. So if I hop into my data containers there and look at that, you can see I'm just creating a bunch of different tasks here. So these are all scheduled tasks. So I've got GitHub traffic and releases and YouTube videos and channels. And if I look at the GitHub traffic, for example, you can see these are all the repos that I wanted to monitor. And then this is the scheduled task. And it just schedules an ECS task for once a day, pulls that crates GitHub image from my registry, and then it sets the Forklift URI environment variable. So I've got Forklift integrated into those containers as well. So if I set that environment variable, it writes it out to that location when that container runs. So pretty straightforward to set up. There's my secret, pulling in from Secrets Manager as well. And this is a lightweight stack, just runs these containers once a day and spits that data out into S3. And then it uses Glue. Let me go down to the Glue section here, just creates a simple Glue database and a Glue crawler to go ahead and crawl that data every day. So that's all it takes to kind of deploy this and start gathering data. But now what? I need to query it. So let's go take a look in Athena. So you can see here, here's my Damons data lake database. I've got a bunch of different tables for that data. So for example, if I do a select star from views, limit 10, and run that, that's going out, querying that JSON data, and you can see there's some information for our different repos. So my demo code repo, Athena query stats. The data is a little bit messy though, as is normal. So it's got timestamps in there, but it's got this weird stats column that is an array inside of a struct. So what I also did is I created some views to be able to query this. So I can go ahead and query those views. Let's take a look at maybe I want to look at what have been my most popular repository over the past few years that I've been doing this. So let's do a GitHub views total. We'll just do a select star from that. And that's just querying the raw JSON. Again, it's not a ton of data, so it goes pretty quickly. You can see it's only scanning, 7 megs, 8 megs here. But if I look at that, you can see that the EMR serverless sample repo has had a couple 100,000 views over the past few years and almost 40,000 uniques. Just kind of cool looking at that. I hadn't run this query in a long time, so I didn't realize you know that repo had gotten that much activity, which is humbling. It's awesome to see that over the course of the past few years. So I hope that's been useful to folks. But yeah, I can look at this data, aggregate it, and it was pretty straightforward. I just took my cargo crates, spit it out to S3, ran a crawler. This thing's just been sitting here running for the past 3 years, and yeah, that's about it. That was the last thing that I wanted to show you. It's a pretty neat little framework. Again, this is not built for any production use case. It's just my fun little data gatherer, but wanted to do it as my last video. So thank you again all for watching and listening. I will see you on the other side.